Hey everybody, my name is Tuomas Nikkinen and I'm a film and media composer. The gentleman playing the piano here is composer Pessi Levant. Together we've created a bunch of different virtual instruments with the Kontakt sampler to be used in different film and TV projects. It's been more complex ones with the National Radio Symphony Orchestra and also smaller ensembles and even solo instruments. Most recently, we recorded and created a very simple piano instrument, this Yamaha C7 grand piano with a little twist. Some people have asked about the process of doing these things. So in this video, I want to give you a quick overview of the steps from the idea to the finished instrument. So Pessi is currently working on a film score that needs a bit of a softer piano sound, and he thought having a piano sampled with just one of the strings playing for each key would be nice, and the other strings being dampened. And you can see that actually in the picture here. So you have this dampening thing that only allows one of the strings to play. And initially we thought we'd record these at Pessi's studio and just hit the keys ourselves and work out all the dynamics and layers and whatnot. But then the recording and mixing engineer extraordinaire Mikko Huttunen was able to arrange this Yamaha C7 for us, which can also take in MIDI and then acoustically play back the notes. So that seemed like a much better option to have consistently record the different layers and dynamics. So that's what we ended up doing. Before recording anything, we had to decide what kind of instrument to actually build. And for this one, we wanted to keep it super simple, very straightforward and fast to do and get into use. So we decided to go for 3 octaves of the piano, starting from 1 octave below the middle C and go up 3 octaves chromatically. And for each key, record 5 different dynamic layers and 3 round robins per note. So total of 15 recorded notes for each key. And in here you can see the Dorico score, which is a bit of an overstatement, but the mapping of the notes. So at 60 BPM, just long notes and record the whole duration of the note until it dies off naturally. And you can see here starting from pianissimo and having the 3 round robins for that layer, and then going to the next dynamics layer, which is piano, and again having the 3 round robins, and on to the next mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo. And we actually ended up going lower with the dynamics, so not going to fortissimo, but sort of from pianissimo to mezzo forte or so. It seemed to make more sense for this softer instrument. And that's pretty much it on the score. So some 5,000 bars later, at bar 4,740, we have recorded the 15 notes for each of the keys in the 3 octaves. And this is what we then take into the actual MIDI for the piano to play. So usually the next phase would be getting the parts out to the players and having the recording session. But in this particular case, for this instrument, the player was actually the piano, which needed the notation in MIDI format to actually do the playing. So I did that with Cubase, which is my main DAW of choice, and I prepared the MIDI for the recording session, so having all the notes and the different velocities. And we ended up tweaking this a little bit before the session, so deciding what are the exact velocity that we want to hit for the different dynamics. And we also had a bit of variance within the dynamics levels for the different round robins. The next step is the actual recording. So we have the MIDI again here. So we controlled the piano within Pro Tools. So Pro Tools was sending the MIDI to the piano and the audio was coming back from the microphones in the recording room. And in here you can see the different mics. So there were 4 different pairs of microphones, 3 for the close and hammer action and 1 for the room. And we ended up using just one of the close mics and the room mic pair for simplicity, and we decided that was a nice combination of the sounds. But this is the recording session. So I think it took like, I don't know, 4 hours to have the piano play all the notes. So starting chromatically and just playing it through. And with different dynamics. And going through all the notes. So we basically prepared the MIDI and then hit record and then just wait for a few hours. The only thing is that we had to do the dampening of the strings with this dampening thing that you recall, 1 octave at a time. So we had a break for each octave and then recorded the next one. And from this, the next step is then slicing and mapping all the recorded notes so that we have the individual hits for each of the keys. And we'll take a look at that next. There are many ways to do the slicing and mapping of the recorded audio into samples that we can take into Kontakt. And I'll show you how I've done it recently, but many ways to do that, of course. So how I like to do is look at the score, and because this contains all the mapping information where the different notes are. And I take that info into a Google Sheet. And in this case, it's a very simple one. We just have 1 articulation and not 10. And it might look a little bit off-putting, but the main point here is that most of the stuff, like 99% of the stuff, is calculated within the sheet. So I just enter a few basic information and then all the rest is done automatically. And why do I use Google Sheet for this? The reason is because I can export all this information in a format that can be imported into a DAW and then used for slicing the samples. And the DAW of choice, so I have a little export script that exports the Google Sheet into a text file that I can then import into a DAW. And the DAW I'm using in here is Reaper. Again, I found it's very efficient for doing audio batch processing and with a lot of macro stuff, and it has worked nicely for this kind of work. So this has all the same information as we had in the Pro Tools session. So the recorded audio, and this only contains now the exported room mic pair and the close mic pair that we had chosen. So we skipped the other one. So two audio tracks, but the same information. So what we're going to do now is import the stuff from the Google Sheet, so the mapping data that we just exported. So importing this text file into Reaper, and now we have all the same information as we had in the Google Sheet. So we create these markers, or as they're called, regions in Reaper, showing where each individual hit is with the different dynamics and the round robins. And when we have the markers here, or the regions, you can see them here, each note separated with its own marker or region in Reaper, we can now export all of these in batch and do the slicing without any additional work. If we were doing denoising or some additional envelope stuff, it would happen at this point. But for this instrument, we just take it as it is. And we can now export all the regions by selecting both of the tracks, and we can see it's about to render 1110 files. And this is a simple instrument, so you can imagine if there are a lot of articulations and full octaves and dynamics, the amount of samples is going to be huge. So everything you can do automatically is a big time saver. So selecting both the close mic track and the room mic track and hitting render, and then just watching it do its magic. So it's going through the regions. It's going to take about 20 minutes to bounce everything. And it's exporting stuff to the directory that we specified. And now each of these notes or each of these files will contain just one hit of one key with one dynamics, with one round robin for everything that we had played. And next we're going to take a look at how to take all this sliced audio into Kontakt and actually get it into a playable instrument. So now we have all of our individual key hits in their own files like this. So pretty soft, and with increasing dynamics going all the way to something like this. So that was the loudest that we decided to record. So now we want to get it into Kontakt. And there are many ways to import samples. You can use the auto mapping function in Kontakt. You can Google that up. But I've done it recently with some scripting, and I'll show how I've done it. So many ways to do it. Here's just one way. So let's just shoot up the program called Creator Tools. So this is by Native Instruments, the same company that makes Kontakt, and it's free. If you have the Kontakt, it's free, and you can download it with native access. So basically it helps in creating Kontakt instruments. That's different debugging and scripting and user interface design stuff. And the most fascinating thing that I find with the Creator Tools is that it can talk with the Kontakt sampler, and you can actually build the instrument with Creator Tools and then just push everything that you've done into Kontakt, and it just magically creates everything in there. So let's try to do that in this semi-live setting. So I'll just create an empty Kontakt patch. Let's call it Audrey demo. It's empty, there's nothing there. And now we can see from the Creator Tools that it already sees this Audrey demo multi and our Audrey demo patch. So it detects the Kontakt that's running. And now we want to import and push our samples into our new Kontakt instance. So we're going to do that with a Lua script. So one feature of Creator Tools is support for Lua script. So Lua is just a scripting language, and you can use it in creating the instrument. And what this does, this is the script here for the geeks. So basically it just scans a directory. It's a script I wrote for scanning the directory for sample files and then reading the file name and creating the groups and doing all the mapping based on the file name. Again, you could do this, at least some of this with Kontakt auto mapping, but I've found it's nicer to have more control over how the instrument is created. So this is our script. We dragged it into Creator Tools, and now we're going to run it. Hope for the best. So it scanned through the directory and did everything for us. And now the cool thing is that when I click this little arrow here, it starts processing everything within Creator Tools and pushing it to Kontakt. So after it's done its thing, we should have something playable already in our earlier empty Kontakt patch. So I decided to create 6 different groups of 3 round robins for 2 mic groups, so 2 times 3. And now when we look at the structure here, we can see that 6 groups have been created, room and close for the 3 round robins. And we should have something playing here, and it's right. So the last thing we need to do is fix the envelope a little bit and take care of the round robin playing. So this is the last thing we're going to take a look at. So let me move this a little bit so you can see. So what we have currently, right, it starts very abruptly and it also ends abruptly, so it doesn't sound like a piano yet. And the reason why we start sort of from the middle of the sample is that we didn't want to have a lot of the hammery plung sound, and I just decided for this very simple instrument, I just decided to cut the head of the hammer action off after doing some testing. But since it starts from the mid of the playing hammer sound, it's pretty abrupt. So let's take these attack. Right, so now it already sounds more like a natural piano, and this is just tweaking by ear. It still stops abruptly, so we want to have some release. So I forget what we had, like perhaps 150. Right, so just tuning this or tweaking this by ear. And yeah, the round robins. So I actually decided to do that with Kontakt scripting. Again, if you Google Kontakt and round robins, there are nice tutorials on how to do it with the Kontakt UI. But I basically built the different instruments with the same template, and I like to have as much control because there's been some wild stuff with randomization and all kinds of calculations happening. And that's just a lot easier to do with scripting. So I use the same sort of strategy for all the instruments. And for this one, this is super simple. So when a note comes in, we mute all the groups and just allow a randomized group to play one of them, not all. And this is what's happening in this little script. So 10 lines and that's it. And so this is done runtime. So every time a note is hit, this is what gets called. And it's in Kontakt scripting language, KSP, and you can basically just edit it either in Kontakt in this script editor view here, or more preferably in a text editor with nice highlighting and whatnot, and then just copy and paste it to this window that's the size of a stamp. Anyways, yeah, so it's a lot easier to do with the editor and then just take it into Kontakt and hit the apply, and then it is applied. And that's it basically. So now when we look at the mapping editor, we can see the different groups or different zones being hit, and we can see only one note being triggered at the time, both the room and close, but only one group, one of the round robins. So we decided to just randomize the round robin, no additional logic. So again, very straightforward and simple for this particular case. And one minor thing for the mapping is that to get a little bit of variability within a single dynamic layer. So we have the 5 different dynamic layers in here, and having an envelope. So basically, the louder you hit within the dynamic layer, the more volume there's going to be within that layer. So instead of having all the notes in the quietest dynamic layer come out with the same volume for the different velocities in that layer, we have a little bit of variability in that. And this was just tweaking and trying to get the transitions from different dynamic layer to the next one as smooth as possible. So that's why we have this additional velocity based envelope here, but it's getting more to the details. And yeah, that's it for this simple one. And for some other instruments, like the nice flute ensemble instrument, which I don't think Bessie has yet posted about, there was a lot more logic in that one, and for the different articulations and all kinds of randomization based on different parameters, and it got semi-complex with the scripting, and that would not have been possible without scripting. And also for the ones that we did with the National Radio Symphony Orchestra. But for this one, it's just this, nice and simple. So that's it for this one. So getting from the idea to the Kontakt. And yeah, and the final thing, you can just drag in a picture, just a regular picture, and all the controls that we had for the user interface was just the close mic and the room mic settings, and that was all the UI we needed for this one. So a super simple instrument, but the concepts are the same to the more complex ones. So that's it. Hope this gave a little bit of an overview of how we've done these things, and onto the next instruments, I guess.